Hi, it's Roberta with Quilt Crafters Corner. Today we're going to do a new block and it's called Buzzard's Roost. Now this is an interesting block. It starts with a 6.5-inch square with a fussy cut center. So let's take a look at this block and I will show you how to put it together. So the block starts with a 6.5-inch square, and I've chosen a fish novelty pattern for it, and then all the rest are just half square triangles. So let me show you how to put this together. So for my center block, I have this lovely fish material that I want to use. And all I really need to do is I just cut a 6.5-inch strip, and then I look for where I want to center my square, and I'm just using my 6.5-inch square, and I will trim and cut, and then I can use that for my center square. So real quick, it's just so there would be my center square. And as you can see, this happens to be a directional fabric. So when I put it together, I need to make sure that I have my fish going all the right way. So let's take a look at this and I will show you how to do the rest of the block. Now, like I said, this is a fairly easy block to do. So here are the two fabrics that I've chosen to go with that. And as you can see, I've got the green and I've got my blue. And this is just a 4 by 24 length. And this is the same, 4-inch by 24. And put right sides together. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut this down so it's more manageable to work with. I like a shorter, thing to work with. So I'm going to cut these into 8-inch lengths, and I'll have 2 in each one. So what I do, so there's one. Okay, so there are my 3 separate. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark my center. Now I'll mark all 4 of them at the same time. It just makes it, I like to work in production mode, so I'm doing all the same thing at the same time. It makes remembering a whole lot easier what I'm doing. So now I'm going to go from my point here to here. And then the same way to the other corner. Now, as I draw these lines on these, this gives me a guide for where I'm going to sew. I sew a 1/4 inch off this line that I'm making so that I will get 4 half square triangles out of each one of these. Now this just makes it easier for me to tell which direction to go in. So this is the last one. Now when I take this to the machine, what I will do is I will start up here in this corner and a scant 1/4 inch off of this line. I will sew down here, I will pivot, and then I will sew in this direction, then I'll pivot again and I'll sew in this direction, and then the last one is this one here. And then that way I will have 4 half square triangles. So I will take this to my machine and I will sew all of these. Okay, so here are my half square triangles that I've just sewn together. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut them in half. So I have two. Now I'm going to cut them in half again. So there's two. And there's two. So each one's going to make four. So this is a real quick way to get your half square triangles done. I like doing them this way only because it's fast as far as sewing is concerned. It's also makes a quick and easy half square triangle. So and the last one. So once again, I'm going to cut this in half. I have my two squares and then cut it in half again. Okay, now what I need to do is I need to take these over to the iron and I need to press them. And I'll press them to the blue, to the darker color. I could press them to the green, it doesn't really matter. They're both pretty dark fabrics. Now what I did to prep these before I even cut them or sewed them is I did starch them lightly so that they kind of hold their shape and they don't get stretched out funny. So half square triangles, starch your fabric lightly. It doesn't matter which type of starch you use, just lightly starch them. That way they won't stretch and they won't get distorted and out of shape. So I will take these to the iron and I will press them open. Okay, here are all my half square triangles that I have done, and they've been pressed really nicely. And see how nice that they press when you just have a little bit of starch on them. So now what I need to do is I need to trim these up. So I'm just going to square them up using the diagonal. Now these are going to be squared up to 3.5 inches. So I could use this one, I could use this one with the 45 degree. It just, whatever is most comfortable in your hand to use, it doesn't really matter. So I want to square these up to 3.5. And I want to square these up to the diagonal line. Now this does two things. It gives you your point right here at the corner, which is really important because once you put that 1/4 inch seam in, you are going to have a 1/4 inch this way. So that way you don't lose your points on your half square triangle. So it's really important that you square these up to the diagonal. It just makes it easier when you go to put this all together. All right, this is my last one that I'm going to square up. And as you've noticed as I was doing this, I like to square all 4 sides. And I just do this because I never know if the fabric got distorted in sewing or in ironing or pressing. So I just like to make sure that I give myself enough room so that I can square up all 4 sides and make sure that my block is nice and even. It will just make for better half square triangles. All right, so here are my half square triangles. So I'm going to start setting these out. And as you can see, So there's my pattern. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these and I'm going to sew them to the sew them at the machine. So first I'll start with these because I'm going to attach these to my center square. Okay, there's my top and there's my bottom. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take these and put them here and here and take that and sew that onto my center square. Okay, so here are my top and bottom and they're sewn on, and what I have done is I have pressed my seams to the center because I won't have a whole lot of seams there, so I want to make sure that it's laying as flat as possible. It just makes it easier once the quilting starts. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these pieces and I'm going to take them to the machine and sew them together. Okay, so here are my two side strips, and what I will now do is I'll attach them to my center. And what I've done is I've nested my seams really nicely here. I've pressed in the opposite direction so that those will nest and this one here will nest. The center one doesn't really matter which way you press it because there's no seam on the other side. So just make sure your seams nest. It helps the block lie much flatter. So I will go and sew these two on. Okay, and there's my finished block. And what I have done is I have pressed my seams to the inside so that it reduces the bulk on the block itself. So there is today's block. It's called Buzzard's Roost. There's today's block. It's called Buzzard's Roost. I hope you enjoyed it. It makes a great kids quilt. You could put all kinds of different novelties in the center of this and it would make an absolute fabulous kids quilt. So I want to thank you all for watching. If you liked the video, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. It tells YouTube you want to see more of these videos. It also tells me if you want to see more of these videos. So thank you for watching and I'll see you next time.